There is a tree whose leaves contain more vitamin A than carrots and more calcium than milk. For 4,000 years, it sustained entire populations across drought-ravaged landscapes. Then, colonial powers systematically uprooted it from 3 continents. Why did they destroy the tree that could end malnutrition? Ancient Egyptian tomb paintings from 2800 BCE depict workers harvesting pods from distinctive feathery trees. Mauryan Empire records describe vast groves feeding millions during failed monsoons. Roman soldiers carried dried leaves on desert campaigns. This was not emergency food. This was engineered survival. Welcome to Buried Yield. If these records matter, subscribe and enable notifications. This is Moringa, Moringa oleifera, the drumstick tree, the horseradish tree, ben oil tree. Every culture that encountered it developed names reflecting its value. The leaves contain 7 times the vitamin C of oranges, 4 times the calcium of milk, 3 times the iron of spinach, 25 times the iron of spinach when dried. But nutrition was only part of its power. The tree grew where others died. It thrived in poor soil with minimal rainfall. It produced food year-round in climates where seasonal hunger killed thousands. Its deep taproot accessed groundwater that surface crops could never reach. The pods provided protein-rich seeds that could be stored for months. The flowers were edible. The bark had medicinal properties. Even the roots served as horseradish substitute. Nothing was wasted. Everything had purpose. Ancient Ayurvedic texts describe it treating 300 diseases. Traditional healers across Africa used different parts for diabetes, hypertension, and malnutrition. The tree required no fertilizer, no pesticides, no irrigation systems. It simply grew and fed people. In drought-prone regions, it represented the difference between survival and starvation. Cities planted groves that sustained them through failed harvests. The tree produced food when grain stores ran empty. Its leaves provided complete nutrition when other sources disappeared. This abundance threatened emerging colonial systems. European powers needed dependent populations, not self-sufficient ones. They needed markets for imported food, not local solutions. They needed control over nutrition, not communities that fed themselves. The destruction began systematically across British India. Colonial administrators discouraged traditional tree cultivation. They promoted cash crops that required purchased inputs. They established agricultural policies favoring exportable commodities over local food security. French authorities in West Africa followed similar patterns. They cleared indigenous groves to plant peanuts and cotton. They introduced European dietary preferences that dismissed traditional foods as primitive. They created dependence on imported nutrition while destroying local abundance. Spanish colonizers in the Philippines uprooted existing food forests. They replaced diverse tree systems with sugar plantations. They established markets that valued exportable crops over community sustenance. Local food sovereignty became economically invisible. The pattern repeated across continents. Indigenous knowledge holders were marginalized. Traditional cultivation practices were labeled backward. Scientific agriculture promoted monocultures that required external inputs and generated exportable profits. By the 20th century, the tree had nearly vanished from regions where it once sustained millions. Development programs promoted hybrid grains and synthetic fertilizers. International aid focused on imported solutions rather than restoring traditional systems. The World Health Organization documented malnutrition rates climbing in regions where these trees once grew. Children suffered vitamin A deficiency in areas where the tree naturally provided abundant nutrition. Maternal mortality increased where traditional birth support systems had been dismantled. Modern research confirmed what ancient cultures always knew. Studies published in the Journal of Food Science documented extraordinary nutritional density. Research in food chemistry verified its medicinal properties. Clinical trials proved its effectiveness against malnutrition. Yet, it remains absent from most international nutrition programs. USAID promotes expensive supplementation instead of tree restoration. The World Food Program distributes imported nutrients rather than supporting local food forests. Pharmaceutical companies now extract compounds from moringa to create expensive supplements. They patent traditional preparations that communities used freely for millennia. They profit from synthetic versions of nutrition that once grew on every village boundary. The same organizations that cleared the groves now sell processed extracts for premium prices. They market moringa powder as superfood discovery, while ignoring the communities that preserved its knowledge. They commodify what was once abundant and free. Today, small farmers in India, Philippines, and parts of Africa maintain remnant populations. They continue traditional practices despite institutional discouragement. They save seeds and share cuttings because they remember the tree's value. Community organizations work to restore food forests in regions devastated by industrial agriculture. They plant moringa in school gardens and health clinics. They teach young people about nutrition that grows on trees rather than arriving in packages. But the damage spans generations. Knowledge holders have died without passing on cultivation techniques. Seed varieties have been lost. Traditional processing methods have disappeared. Entire communities have forgotten that food security once grew in their backyards. The tree that could eliminate malnutrition grows wild in marginal areas where development hasn't reached. It produces food without fertilizer, survives without irrigation, requires no pesticides. It offers the same nutrition today that sustained ancient civilizations. Yet, children starve in regions where these trees could thrive. Mothers suffer nutritional deficiencies in climates perfect for cultivation. Communities depend on expensive supplements, while the tree waits in degraded lands, ready to feed anyone willing to plant it. The systematic suppression of moringa represents more than agricultural policy. It demonstrates how traditional abundance can be erased to create profitable scarcity. It shows how food sovereignty can be destroyed to establish dependence. The tree survives in scattered locations, maintained by people who refuse to forget. It grows without permission in abandoned areas. It seeds itself along roadsides and field edges. It offers the same gifts to anyone willing to remember its value. That generosity is exactly why it had to be eliminated. If this changed how you see food, history, or power, subscribe to Buried Yield. The next record opens soon.